What's your assessment of where we are right now?
So we're much better placed than we were 2 years ago. We've now got vaccines that work very well in stopping deaths and serious illness from COVID-19. We've got new drugs that reduce the risk of complications of death also. So we're now much better placed than we were at the start of the pandemic, when we had those tools weren't available to us, unfortunately.
I was looking at your latest blog post, Dr. Majid, yesterday, and you're still actually demanding that those people who haven't had the vaccine should still come forward and do so. That feels a little behind the curve now, given that we know that it does very little actually to stop transmission, particularly with the Omicron variant.
It does have some effect on transmission, not as much as perhaps you might hope, but there is some effect. But its main effect is in stopping serious cases. So vaccines do really reduce the risk of serious illness and death quite substantially. And it's really vaccines that have allowed us to relax measures that we've had in place for the past 2 years. So I would say to people, if you're not vaccinated, come forward for your vaccines. There are appointments available across the NHS all over the UK. So you take that offer up if you're not vaccinated.
We're getting a little more information now, of course. The Pfizer trial data, which they wanted to keep quiet for 75 years, astonishingly, given this is a public health emergency. And they were forced to release those documents, as you'll know, with the Freedom of Information Act. And have you had a look at those documents, and particularly the number of adverse reactions and deaths within the first 3 months of the rollout? Because it does make for quite shocking reading.
The data, in fact, shows the vaccines are very safe. I mean, no drug or vaccine is entirely safe. They will all have some side effects. But overall, if you look at all the trials of the various vaccines, the Pfizer vaccines, the AstraZeneca vaccine and others, overall, they're very, very, very safe with a very low risk of side effects. These vaccines have been very heavily studied.
I don't think that is any longer. That's not necessarily unanimous amongst the scientific community now. Even these Pfizer trials themselves, the first 3 months, 42,000 associated adverse events and 1,223 associated deaths from an unknown number of vaccines. So I think at this stage, it's a very different conversation than we would have been having 18 months ago. But I think at this stage, do we not have to sit back and assess the information we have now and review the vaccine continuation and to take a much more informed position on who this is beneficial for?
Those are all valid points. The UK, in fact, is a world leader in vaccine data because of our NHS and our excellent data systems we've got here. We've got great data on vaccine effectiveness and safety. And the data we've got from the NHS across the UK shows the vaccines are working well and are very safe. So I think, yes, there are always caveats, but overall, the vaccines are very beneficial to us in the UK and globally as well.
Have we hit a point where we're now in an endemic rather than a pandemic?
We are now in an endemic phase, so the virus is with us for some time to come, unless it mutates into a very mild form, like the common cold. So we're going to see cases, we'll see deaths, we'll see people requiring hospital treatment, but not the level we saw over the last 2 years. So, levels that we can cope with and carry on with our lives fairly normally, not quite back to normal, but fairly normal compared to what we've had over the past 2 years with various lockdowns and the measures that were brought into place.